Hello, I'm Helen Van Wyck, and welcome to my studio. Today's session is all about gray. Yes, a color that I'm very much fascinated with. Maybe you'll take a look at this painting that I did just recently. Look at how the gray of the background and the gray of the table and the grayish blue of the drape contributes so much to the coloration of the fruit. Today also, while I tell you all about the color gray, I'm going to show you how to paint pewter, one of the objects that is a fascinating gray color. Yes, people always worry about the color of this and the color of that, and gray seems to be the neglected color. But rather than tell you about it, I think a picture is worth 1,000 words. Yes, I have a canvas toned down because it's easier. Let me take a brush and paint this picture of a pewter mug and fruit that needs gray added to it to make the peach have fuzz and the plums have bloom. Let me begin, as I always do, with a bit of a placement indication. Nothing's going to go out of the picture. That's going to be up there, and I'll wad all this fruit arrangement into one general overall proportion, and I'll wad these two together in another general proportion, and then make an oval for this too, to see that all of them will fit, and also that they're not the same size, so I can get variety. Let me then now push into this general placement some lines to help me draw. A straight line to get the anatomy of this tankard. Don't ever draw one side and then the other. Do them like a lathe, practically. Honing it out. Now, I'm making those peaches a little smaller than I see them. They happen to be the only size I could buy today. By the way, those peaches are really very good. The other half I ate. The joy of being a still life painter. Eat a lot of fruit. Yes, see how these marks that I began with are certainly helpful in making everything fit. And now I can start massing in all the colors. Let me get a bigger brush. Don't you think because I have the background already similar to the background color that I'm seeing, it would be easier to mass in the tankard first? And what color gray do I see? You never make gray out of just black and white. Although most all grays, I do start by a tone made of black and white, ivory black by the way. But it has to be a colored gray. This is a boring gray. It's not the gray that I see. I see a warm gray. There are warm colors and cool colors. Yellow, orange, and red are the warm colors. Violet, blue, and green are the cool colors. And so with a dull yellowish color, I've made a color that seems to look like the color I see over there. Yes, your eye and color mixing is putting a color down and saying, does it look all right? Fine, then use it. You can't make a guarantee before you see it. Have a guarantee before you see it. And so now I'm going to mass in this color to start making a paint rendition of the pewter. My application is not awfully thick because I do want to be able to work onto it or into it. but I've thinned the paint down enough to have it spread. Yes, I'm just thinning it with turpentine. So many people wonder what I mix with my paint. What medium do you use? They say Helen, and I say brains, as much as I can gather. If the paint doesn't flow, I add more turpentine. If it seems too runny, I add less. It's as simple as that. Just a matter of being practical. And the rag is always a handy thing to have very close by. I can dip it into the turpentine to wipe away where I'm going to eventually put these shiny or semi-shiny light spots. I want very much to help the shape of that with the background color. And even though I see that very cool, a blue-gray, I want a warm gray. Why? I like warm colors better than cool colors. They make me feel more comfortable. So I always apply or add to my pictures what I want. After all, it's my picture. I can have anything I want. That's the hard part, knowing what you want. We waste a lot of time in life going after something that isn't really what we want or what's best for us. And I think that this color is better for my picture than that dead cold color over there. And also, I think I can make the background a little bit more interesting or contribute to the composition more by not having it all one tone. I'm going to darken it on the edges. Well, I've just darkened the warm gray, yellowish gray, with a violetish gray, again using the complementary color theory. To blend. And I think probably you'll notice that by having these two tones incorporate with each other, the background area looks a little bit more atmospheric than if I just coated it this way with one flat color. You see, dimension is achieved by contrast of tone, but luminosity comes from the use of a color and its complement. Let me step back and see what I've done. Oh, you caught me correcting. Yes, I fixed the shape of that by going over it, and now I'm making it stand out more by lightening the background. And now I have an option. I can continue working on this, or I can put these colors in. I think I would like to see how the peaches and plums look with this color gray. So let me just suggest that. That's a relief. That color looks very nice. You know why? Because it has all this gray surrounding. Sometimes a picture suffers from too much color. Gray is your relief color. And this peach over here, I'm dipping into almost pure color right as it comes out of the tube. The gray helps me do that. I think much of my technique comes from a bit of impatience. rather than take a tiny little brush and pick it in there, I know that if I make it big, I can always correct it because that's going to expedite it. Ooh, I'm going to have to be careful. See this? It's a kiss. Just touching. I either have to make that overlap or move it away, or it's going to be a confusing looking place. It won't look as though this is in front of this. It might look as though it's right against it. Can't kiss on canvas. And now the purple plums, alizarin, 2 red, some phthalo blue, darkened it and blued it. Let's see what that does. Oh, that's so dark. Lighter. That's better. And this one, and I want to make sure it doesn't touch that edge. I've cut it off on this side. I cut it off on this side. It would just be too similar. And it would be good to show that corner so I can expose the anatomy of that tankard. Always expose the anatomy so that people will know the object's shape. They have to read it by the way you've presented it. And now a lighter tone of gray, again a warm gray, white, touch of black, yellow ochre, to begin the coloration of the off-white cloth. And I want to show some of the cloth in the back. Oh, that seems like an unhandy thing to do. I'm going to make it bigger, maybe fix it later. And now we have cast shadows from the fruit on the off-white table color. And the off-white I made yellowish white and then naturally the complementary color violet for the shadows. The cast shadows that I love so much. Why? It sets these plums' little bottoms down on the table, stops them from floating, levitating. And now I'm at a stage that I'd like to step back because I'm at a point to go into finishing the grayness of this and adding the grayness to these to this fruit to help them look more luminous, more real, more colorful actually. This is the mass tone stage. Would you believe that this picture went through this? I know you're seeing it all very luminous and very real, but you can't really go from the outhouse to the moon. Now I have a chance to add this effect to this. How? I'm going to start on the pewter. And remember I made it a warm gray, gray with yellow in it. Now if I put gray and yellow on it, it's going to start looking like a yellow pewter. Instead I'm going to add a lighter tone of the color that isn't yellow. It's complement, violet. And add onto this the lighter tone I see here, which is the beginning of the highlight. The lighter tone I see on that rim, and here. Yes, highlights. Shine's best friend. Where do they strike an object? On the apex of the concavities and convexities in line with the light. I love that phrase. Yes, I see other tone values there. They're reflections. I'm going to save them for later. Right now, I want to just impart the oops. Do that a lot because I don't hang on to my brush for dear life. I want to fuse that in. Yes, I use a sable brush. Usually work my subjects over from the top down. Now I want to make it shine even more. If I just lighten this, it's going to look as though it's too blue. So now I'll take a lighter tone and put yellow in it. Because I think if you examine that, isn't it nice that you can see what I'm working from? Then you can tell whether I'm getting it right or not. I think you'll notice that that highlight looks quite yellowish. So right in the middle of the blue, a lighter value. Highlight yellowish. And now the reflections. Reflections are capricious. They come as a result of the surroundings that the pot happens to be in. Just put your subject matter in nice surroundings so you get nice reflections. This is coming from the peach. This is coming from the white cloth. There's a little bit of peachiness over here. All quite muted because of the dullness that is characteristic of pewter and separates it from its more elegant cousin, silver. And the peaches can reflect up into that underplane too. And the table can reflect up into here. Let's go back. I started out with a yellowish gray. Now I want to add the shadows that I see. I can't use yellow because it would then look like a yellow thing instead of a pewter thing. And so now I'm going to add the shadows in violet. It's a constant interplay of a color and its complement. Preconceived ideas of what you see can stop you from accepting the fundamentals. If you think that pewter is just black and white, you'll paint it in black and white, and that won't be enough. That won't do. There's no such color as white, there's no such color as black, and so there's no such color as a gray made with black and white. Your grays have to be made with black and white plus color. Let me step back and see how this orchestration of color and complement has worked on this surface. I hope you don't mind that I don't talk about every phase of this picture's development. I'm focusing only on gray. I remember taking piano lessons, and I learned one thing at a time. I learned where middle C was, and I didn't get another lesson until I knew where it was. I think if we focus on one item, learn it well, we know it, and then we can go on from there by learning other things. And so this picture's focus is only on gray, not on painting a handle or correcting a shape. I'll do that some other time. Let me show you what gray will impart to these plums. White and black again to make a plain old gray. And oddly enough, even though you may see the haze on those plums bluish, I'm going to start them with black, white, and umber, and save that beautiful blue color for the final edition. I like to save the goodies for the last strokes, realizing that to look your best, you always need a foundation garment. So I introduce the grayness of these plums, not with the blue, but a brownish gray, so that those bluish hazes don't shock the living daylights out of my plum renditions. I like them all to develop at the same rate of speed. Don't do one to completion and then do another one. The second one is done when I'm older. And maybe it would be better than the first one I did, because I will have taken advantage of my newfound maturity. Try to make the quality of all the things you do the same, have the same attitude. Now, clean my brush, and I'm going to now take right next to, that's what a palette's for, to introduce your colors to each other first before they shock the living daylights out of them over on the canvas. And so now with blue, phthalo blue, and white, seeing how it looks next to that color, I'm going to add this haze. My brush goes back to my palette a lot, and very quickly, because I always have to be working with a loaded brush. Yes, these plums get highlights too, and they're gray. Lighter grays than the haze. And right around that highlight, I see a lovely introduction of more red. So I hope this session has helped you appreciate gray. And next time we meet, I'm going to show you how to paint reflections in still water. So see you then. Or maybe I'll teach you how to make soup. Hello, I'm Helen Van Wyk, and welcome to my studio.